Hey Crime Junkies, Jay here, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we're diving deep into the murky world of espionage, betrayal and Cold War secrets. We're talking about Aldrich Ames, a name that even decades later still sends shivers down the spines of intelligence professionals. Now the Cold War might seem like ancient history to some, but the ripple effects of that era still shape our world. And even after the Soviet Union crumbled in '91, the game of spies and moles was far from over. In fact, the '90s saw the arrest of 4 major moles operating within the US intelligence community. And the first domino to fall? Aldrich Ames. February 21st, 1994. Imagine the scene: Arlington, Virginia, a seemingly quiet suburban street. The FBI moves in, arresting Aldrich Ames on espionage charges. Alongside him, his wife Rosario, accused of aiding and abetting his treachery. So, who was Aldrich Ames? He wasn't some rogue outsider. He was a 31-year veteran of the CIA. He spoke Russian, he specialized in Soviet intelligence, and he had access to some of the USA's most sensitive secrets. He'd served in Turkey, New York, Mexico. He knew the game. But here's where the story takes a truly dark turn. In April 1985, Ames volunteered his services to the KGB. That's right, he walked into the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. and offered to sell out his country. The price? Initially $50,000, but that was just the beginning. Over the next few years, Ames systematically betrayed CIA and FBI assets, handing over names, operational details, everything. He met with KGB officers in Washington, Bogota, Rome. He used dead drops, pre-arranged hiding places to exchange classified documents for cash and instructions. The KGB was thrilled. By 1989, they had paid him $1.88 million. Now, think about this for a second. Ames wasn't just passing along information, he was signing death warrants. The CIA and FBI had recruited Soviet officials to provide critical intelligence. These sources were feeding us invaluable insights into the inner workings of the USSR. And Ames was giving their names and identities directly to the KGB. Many of those individuals were arrested and executed. Lives were lost, all for money. So, how did he get caught? Well, red flags started popping up. The CIA and FBI noticed that their Soviet sources were disappearing at an alarming rate. On top of that, Ames started living way beyond his means. He had unexplained wealth, expensive cars, a fancy house, things that didn't exactly align with a CIA salary. In May 1993, the FBI launched a full-blown investigation. For 10 months, they subjected Ames to intense physical and electronic surveillance. They searched his house, tracked his movements, analyzed his finances, and the evidence started piling up. They observed him making chalk marks on a mailbox signals to his Russian handlers. They watched him meet with a known KGB officer in Bogota. The net was closing in. Finally, when Ames planned a trip to Moscow as part of his official duties, the FBI knew they had to act. They couldn't risk him disappearing behind the Iron Curtain. Both Aldrich and Rosario Ames pled guilty. Aldrich was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Rosario received a 63-month sentence. Ames eventually agreed to debriefings, revealing the full extent of his betrayal. He had compromised countless operations and sealed the fate of numerous human sources. And, in a small act of justice, Ames forfeited his assets, with over $500,000 going to the Justice Department's Victims Assistance Fund. But the story doesn't end there. Ames's arrest triggered a wave of investigations that exposed other moles within the US intelligence community: Harold Nicholson, Earl Pitts, Robert Hansen. It was a systemic failure, a wake-up call about the vulnerabilities within our own security apparatus. Aldrich Ames is still serving his sentence today. He's a reminder that the threat of betrayal can come from within, and that the consequences of espionage can be devastating. That's all for this week's episode, Crime Junkies. Thanks for joining me as we delved into the case of Aldrich Ames. Until next time, stay safe and keep your secrets close.